Kansas.
ＫANZAS/ＫANZەs is a U.S. state located in the Midwestern United States. It is named after the Kansa Native American tribe which inhabited the area. The tribe's name is often said to mean people of the wind, or people of the south wind, although this was probably not the term's original meaning. Residents of Kansas are called Kansans. For thousands of years, what is now Kansas was home to numerous and diverse Native American tribes. Tribes in the eastern part of the state generally lived in villages along the river valleys. Tribes in the western part of the state were semi-nomadic and hunted large herds of bison. Kansas was first settled by European Americans in the 1830s, but the pace of settlement accelerated in the 1850s, in the midst of political wars over the slavery issue. When it was officially opened to settlement by the U.S. government in 1854, abolitionist free staters from New England and pro-slavery settlers from neighboring Missouri rushed to the territory to determine whether Kansas would become a free state or a slave state. Thus, the area was a hotbed of violence and chaos in its early days as these forces collided, and was known as Bleeding Kansas. The abolitionists eventually prevailed, and on January 29, 1861, Kansas entered the Union as a free state. After the Civil War, the population of Kansas grew rapidly when waves of immigrants turned the prairie into farmland. Today, Kansas is one of the most productive agricultural states, producing high yields of wheat, sorghum, and sunflowers. Kansas is the 15th most extensive and the 34th most populous of the 50 United States.
History.
For millennia, the land that is currently Kansas was inhabited by Native Americans. The first European to set foot in present-day Kansas was Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, who explored the area in 1541. In 1803, most of modern Kansas was secured by the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase. Southwest Kansas, however, was still a part of Spain, Mexico and the Republic of Texas until the conclusion of the Mexican-American War in 1848. From 1812 to 1821, Kansas was part of the Missouri Territory. The Santa Fe Trail traversed Kansas from 1821 to 1880, transporting manufactured goods from Missouri and silver and furs from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Wagon ruts from the trail are still visible in the prairie today. In 1827, Fort Leavenworth became the first permanent settlement of white Americans in the future state. The Kansas-Nebraska Act became law on May 30, 1854, establishing the U.S. territories of Nebraska and Kansas, and opening the area to broader settlement by whites. Kansas Territory stretched all the way to the Continental Divide and included the sites of present-day Denver, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo. Missouri and Arkansas sent settlers into Kansas all along its eastern border. These settlers attempted to sway votes in favor of slavery. The secondary settlement of Americans in Kansas Territory were abolitionists from Massachusetts and other free staters, who attempted to stop the spread of slavery from neighboring Missouri. Directly presaging the American Civil War, these forces collided, entering into skirmishes that earned the territory the name of Bleeding Kansas. Kansas was admitted to the United States as a slave-free state on January 29, 1861, making it the 34th state to enter the Union. By that time the violence in Kansas had largely subsided, but during the Civil War, on August 21, 1863, William Quantrill led several hundred men on a raid into Lawrence, destroying much of the city and killing nearly 200 people. He was roundly condemned by both the conventional Confederate military and the partisan Rangers commissioned by the Missouri legislature. His application to the body for a commission was flatly rejected due to his pre-war criminal record. After the Civil War, many veterans constructed homesteads in Kansas. Many African Americans also looked to Kansas as the land of John Brown, and, led by freedmen like Benjamin Pap Singleton, began establishing black colonies in the state. Leaving southern states in the late 1870s because of increasing discrimination, they became known as exodusters. At the same time, the Chisholm Trail was opened and the Wild West era commenced in Kansas. Wild Bill Hickok was a deputy marshal at Fort Riley and a marshal at Hayes and Abilene. Dodge City was another wild cowboy town, and both Bat Masterson and Wyatt Earp worked as lawmen in the town. In 1 year alone, 8 million head of cattle from Texas boarded trains in Dodge City bound for the east, earning Dodge the nickname Queen of the Cowtowns. In response to demands of Methodists and other evangelical Protestants, in 1881 Kansas became the first U.S. state to adopt a constitutional amendment prohibiting all alcoholic beverages.
Geography.
Kansas is bordered by Nebraska on the north, Missouri on the east, Oklahoma on the south, and Colorado on the west. The state is divided into 105 counties with 628 cities, and is located equidistant from the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The geographic center of the 48 contiguous states is located in Smith County near Lebanon. The geodetic center of North America was located in Meads Ranch, Kansas, Osborne County until 1983. This spot was used until that date as the central reference point for all maps of North America produced by the U.S. government. The geographic center of Kansas is located in Barton County.
Geology.
Kansas is underlain by a sequence of horizontal to gently westward dipping sedimentary rocks. A sequence of Mississippian, Pennsylvanian and Permian rocks outcrop in the eastern and southern part of the state. The western half of the state has exposures of Cretaceous through Tertiary sediments, the latter derived from the erosion of the uplifted Rocky Mountains to the west. These are underlain by older Paleozoic and Mesozoic sediments which correlate well with the outcrops to the east. The northeastern corner of the state was subjected to glaciation in the Pleistocene and is covered by glacial drift and loess.
Topography.
The western two-thirds of the state, lying in the Great Central Plain of the United States, has a generally flat or undulating surface, while the eastern third has many hills and forests. The land gradually rises from east to west. Its altitude ranges from 684 feet, 208 m, along the Verdigris River at Coffeyville in Montgomery County, to 4,039 feet, 1,231 m, at Mount Sunflower, 1/2 mile from the Colorado border, in Wallace County. It is a popular belief that Kansas is the flattest state in the nation, reinforced by a well-known 2003 tongue-in-cheek study stating that Kansas was indeed flatter than a pancake. This has since been called into question, with most scientists ranking Kansas somewhere between 20th and 30th flattest state, depending on measurement method. Its average elevation is 2,000 feet, higher than that of 36 states.
Rivers.
Nearly 75 miles, 121 kilometers, of the state's northeastern boundary is defined by the Missouri River. The Kansas River, locally known as the Kaw, formed by the junction of the Smoky Hill and Republican Rivers at appropriately named Junction City, joins the Missouri at Kansas City, after a course of 170 miles, 270 kilometers, across the northeastern part of the state. The Arkansas River, pronunciation varies, rising in Colorado, flows with a bending course for nearly 500 miles, 800 kilometers, across the western and southern parts of the state. With its tributaries, the Little Arkansas, Ninnasaw, Walnut, Cow Creek, Cimarron, Verdigris, and the Neosho, it forms the southern drainage system of the state. Other important rivers are the Saline and Solomon Rivers, tributaries of the Smoky Hill River. The Big Blue, Delaware, and Wakarusa, which flow into the Kansas River. And the Murray Stations, a tributary of the Missouri River. Spring River is located between Riverton, Kansas and Baxter Springs, Kansas.
National parks and historic sites.
Areas under the protection of the National Park Service include Brown v. Board of Education National Historic Site in Topeka, California National Historic Trail, Fort Land National Historic Site in Land, Fort Scott National Historic Site, Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, Nicodemus National Historic Site at Nicodemus, Oregon National Historic Trail, Pony Express National Historic Trail, Santa Fe National Historic Trail, Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve near Strong City.
Climate.
According to the Köppen climate classification, the climate of Kansas can be characterized in terms of three types. It has humid continental, semi-arid steppe, and humid subtropical. The eastern two-thirds of the state, especially the northeastern portion, has a humid continental climate, with cool to cold winters and hot, often humid summers. Most of the precipitation falls in the summer and spring. The western third of the state, from roughly the U.S. Route 281 corridor westward, has a semi-arid steppe climate. Summers are hot, often very hot, and generally less humid. Winters are highly changeable between warm and very cold. The western region receives an average of about 16 inches, 410 millimeters, of precipitation per year. Chinook winds in the winter can warm western Kansas all the way into the 80 DEGF, 27 DEGC, range. The far south-central and southeastern reaches of the state have a humid subtropical climate with hot, humid summers, milder winters and more precipitation than elsewhere in Kansas. Although not strictly falling in all of the zones, some features of all three climates can be found in most of the state, with droughts and changeable weather between dry and humid not uncommon, and both warm and cold spells in the winter. Precipitation ranges from about 47 inches, 1,200 millimeters, annually in the southeast corner of the state, to about 16 inches, 410 millimeters, in the southwest. Snowfall ranges from around 5 inches, 130 millimeters, in the fringes of the south, to 35 inches, 890 millimeters, in the far northwest. Frost-free days range from more than 200 days in the south, to 130 days in the northwest. Thus, Kansas is the 9th or 10th sunniest state in the country, depending on the source. Western Kansas is as sunny as California and Arizona. Kansas is prone to severe weather, especially in the spring and early summer. Despite the frequent sunshine throughout much of the state, due to its location at a climatic boundary prone to intrusions of multiple air masses, the state is vulnerable to strong and severe thunderstorms. Some of these storms become supercell thunderstorms. These can spawn tornadoes, occasionally of EF3 strength or higher. According to statistics from the National Climatic Data Center, Kansas has reported more tornadoes, for the period January 1, 1950 through October 31, 2006, than any state except for Texas, marginally even more than Oklahoma. Kansas averages over 50 tornadoes annually. Severe thunderstorms sometimes drop very large hail over Kansas as well as bringing flash flooding and damaging straight-line winds. According to NOAA, the all-time highest temperature recorded in Kansas is 121 DEGF, 49 DEGC, on July 24, 1936, near Alton, and the all-time low is 40 DEGF, 40 DEGC, on February 13, 1905, near Lebanon. Kansas's record high of 121 DEGF, 49.4 DEGC, ties with North Dakota for the fifth highest record high in an American state, behind California, 134 DEGF/56.7 DEGC, Arizona, 128 DEGF/53.3 DEGC, Nevada, 125 DEGF/51.7 DEGC, and New Mexico, 122 DEGF/50 DEGC.
Demographics.
The United States Census Bureau estimates that the population of Kansas was 2,893,957 on July 1, 2013, a 1.4% increase since the 2010 United States Census. As of 2013, Kansas had an estimated population of 2,893,957, an increase of 40,839, or 1.4%, from the prior year and an increase of 40,839, or 1.4%, since the year 2010. This includes a natural increase since the last census of 93,899 people, that is 246,484 births minus 152,585 deaths, and a decrease due to net migration of 20,742 people out of the state. Immigration from outside the United States resulted in a net increase of 44,847 people, and migration within the country produced a net loss of 65,589 people. The population density of Kansas is 52.9 people per square mile. The center of population of Kansas is located in Chase County, at 38-27N96-32W/38.450 DEGN 96.533 DEGW/38.450. Minus 96.533, approximately 3 miles north of the community of Strong City.
Race and ethnicity.
According to the 2010 census, the racial makeup of the population was 83.8% of the population was white American, 77.5% non-Hispanic white, 5.9% was black or African American, 1.0% American Indian and Alaska Native, 2.4% Asian American, 0.1% Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, 3.0% from 2 or more races. Ethnically 10.5% of the total population was of Hispanic or Latino origin, they may be of any race. As of 2004, the population included 149,800 foreign-born, 5.5% of the state population. The 10 largest reported ancestry groups, which account for over 85% of the population, in the state are, German, 33.75%, Irish, 14.4%, English, 14.1%, American, 7.5%, French, 4.4%, Scottish, 4.2%, Dutch, 2.5%, Swedish, 2.4%, Italian, 1.8%, and Polish, 1.5%. German descendants are especially present in the Northwest, while those of descendants of English and of white Americans from other states are especially present in the Southeast. Mexicans are present in the Southwest and make up nearly half the population in certain counties. Many African Americans in Kansas are descended from the Exodusters, newly freed blacks who fled the South for land in Kansas following the Civil War.
Religion.
The 2008 Pew Religious Landscape Survey showed the religious makeup of Kansas was as follows: Christian 86%, Protestant 53.7%, Roman Catholic 29%, Latter-day Saints Mormons 2%, Jehovah's Witness 2%, non-denominational 1%, non-religious 9%, Jewish 2%, Muslim 0.5%, Buddhist 0.5% and Hindu 0.5%. As of the year 2010, the Association of Religion Data Archives, ARDA, reported that the 3 largest denominational groups in Kansas are the Catholic Church, the United Methodist Church, and the Southern Baptist Convention. The Catholic Church has the highest number of adherents in Kansas, at 426,611, followed by the United Methodist Church with 202,989 members, and the Southern Baptist Convention, reporting 99,329 adherents. The Kansas Baha'i community has the distinction of being the second in the Western Hemisphere, founded in 1897 in Enterprise, Kansas. In 2012, it was reported there has been a growth in Mormons and Catholics.
Rural flight.
Known as rural flight, the last few decades have been marked by a migratory pattern out of the countryside into cities. Out of all the cities in these Midwestern states, 89% have fewer than 3,000 people, and hundreds of those have fewer than 1,000. In Kansas alone, there are more than 6,000 ghost towns and dwindling communities, according to one Kansas historian, Daniel C. Fitzgerald. At the same time, some of the communities in Johnson County, metropolitan Kansas City, are among the fastest growing in the country.
Important cities and towns.
Kansas has 627 incorporated cities. By state statute, cities are divided into three classes as determined by the population obtained by any census of enumeration. A city of the third class has a population of less than 5,000, but cities reaching a population of more than 2,000 may be certified as a city of the second class. The second class is limited to cities with a population of less than 25,000, and upon reaching a population of more than 15,000, they may be certified as a city of the first class. First and second class cities are independent of any township and are not included within the township's territory.
Northeast Kansas.
The northeastern portion of the state, extending from the eastern border to Junction City and from the Nebraska border to south of Johnson County, is home to more than 1.5 million people in the Kansas City, Kansas portion, Manhattan, Lawrence, and Topeka metropolitan areas. Overland Park, a young city incorporated in 1960, has the largest population and the largest land area in the county. It is home to Johnson County Community College and the corporate campus of Sprint Nextel, the largest private employer in the metro area. In 2006 the city was ranked as the sixth best place to live in America. The neighboring city of Olathe was 13th. Olathe is the county seat and home to Johnson County Executive Airport. The cities of Olathe, Shawnee, and Gardner have some of the state's fastest-growing populations. The cities of Overland Park, Lenexa, Olathe, and Gardner are also notable because they lie along the former route of the Santa Fe Trail. Among cities with at least 1,000 residents, Mission Hills has the highest median income in the state. DeSoto was the home to the largest smokeless ammunition plant in the world, Sunflower Army Ammunition Plant, which opened in 1941 and made DeSoto one of the fastest-growing cities in America in its time, and the plant closed in 1992. Several institutions of higher education are located in northeast Kansas, including Baker University, the oldest university in the state, founded in 1858 and affiliated with the United Methodist Church, in Baldwin City, Benedictine College, sponsored by St. Benedict's Abbey and Mount St. Scholastica Monastery and formed from the merger of St. Benedict's College, 1858, and Mount St. Scholastica College, 1923 in Atchison, Mid-America Nazarene University in Olathe, Ottawa University in Ottawa and Overland Park, Kansas City Kansas Community College and KU Medical Center in Kansas City, and KU Edwards Campus in Overland Park. Less than an hour's drive to the west, Lawrence is home to the University of Kansas, the largest public university in the state, and Haskell Indian Nations University. To the north, Kansas City, with the second-largest land area in the state, contains a number of diverse ethnic neighborhoods. Its attractions include the Kansas Speedway, Kansas City T-Bones and the Legends at Village West Retail and Entertainment Center. Further up the Missouri River, the city of Lansing is the home of the state's first maximum security prison. Historic Leavenworth, founded in 1854, was the first incorporated city in Kansas. North of the city, Fort Leavenworth is the oldest active Army post west of the Mississippi River. The city of Atchison was an early commercial center in the state and is well known as the birthplace of Amelia Earhart. To the west, nearly 250,000 people reside in the Topeka metropolitan area. Topeka is the state capital and home to Washburn University. Built at a Kansas River crossing along the Old Oregon Trail, this historic city has several nationally registered historic places. Further westward along Interstate 70 and the Kansas River is Junction City with its historic limestone and brick buildings and nearby Fort Riley, well known as the home to the U.S. Army's 1st Infantry Division, also known as the Big Red One. A short distance away, the city of Manhattan is home to Kansas State University, the second largest public university in the state and the nation's oldest land-grant university, dating back to 1863. South of the campus, Aggieville dates back to 1889 and is the state's oldest shopping district of its kind.
Wichita.
In south-central Kansas, the Wichita metropolitan area is home to over 600,000 people. Wichita is the largest city in the state in terms of both land area and population. The air capital is a major manufacturing center for the aircraft industry and the home of Wichita State University. Before Wichita was the air capital, it was a cow town. With a number of nationally registered historic places, museums, and other entertainment destinations, it has a desire to become a cultural mecca in the Midwest. Wichita's population growth has grown by double digits and the surrounding suburbs are among the fastest growing cities in the state. The population of Goddard has grown by more than 11% per year since 2000. Other fast-growing cities include Andover, Maize, Park City, Darby, and Harrisville. Wichita was one of the first cities to add the city commissioner and city manager in their form of government. Wichita is also home of the nationally recognized Sedgwick County Zoo. Upriver, the Arkansas River, from Wichita is the city of Hutchinson. The city was built on one of the world's largest salt deposits, and it has the world's largest and longest wheat elevator. It is also the home of Kansas Cosmosphere and Space Center, Prairie Dunes Country Club and the Kansas State Fair. North of Wichita along Interstate 135 is the city of Newton, the former western terminal of the Santa Fe Railroad and trailhead for the famed Chisholm Trail. To the southeast of Wichita are the cities of Winfield and Arkansas City with historic architecture and the Cherokee Strip Museum, in Ark City. The city of Updale was the site of the deadliest tornado in Kansas on May 25, 1955. It killed 80 people in and near the city. To the southwest of Wichita is Freeport, the state's smallest incorporated city, population 5.
Around the state.
Located midway between Kansas City, Topeka, and Wichita in the heart of the Bluestem region of the Flint Hills, the city of Emporia has several nationally registered historic places and is the home of Emporia State University, well known for its Teachers College. It was also the home of newspaperman William Allen White.
Southeast Kansas.
Southeast Kansas has a unique history with a number of nationally registered historic places in this coal mining region. Located in Crawford County, dubbed the fried chicken capital of Kansas, Pittsburgh is the largest city in the region and the home of Pittsburgh State University. The neighboring city of Frontenac in 1888 was the site of the worst mine disaster in the state in which an underground explosion killed 47 miners. Big Brutus is located 1.5 miles outside the city of West Mineral. Along with the restored fort, historic Fort Scott is a national cemetery designated by President Lincoln in 1862.
Central and north-central Kansas.
Salina is the largest city in central and north-central Kansas. South of Salina is the small city of Lindsborg with its numerous Dalla horses. Much of the architecture and decor of this town has a distinctly Swedish style. To the east along Interstate 70, the historic city of Abilene was formerly a trailhead for the Chisholm Trail and was the boyhood home of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and is the site of his presidential library and the tombs of the former president, First Lady and son who died in infancy. To the west is Lucas, the grassroots art capital of Kansas.
Northwest Kansas.
Westward along the interstate, the city of Russell, traditionally the beginning of sparsely populated northwest Kansas, was the base of former U.S. Senator Bob Dole and the boyhood home of U.S. Senator Arlen Specter. The city of Hays is home to Fort Hays State University and the Sternberg Museum of Natural History, and is the largest city in the Northwest with a population of around 20,001. Two other landmarks are located in smaller towns in Ellis County. The Cathedral of the Plains is located 10 miles, 16 kilometers, east of Hays in Victoria, and the boyhood home of Walter Chrysler is 15 miles, 24 kilometers, west of Hays in Ellis. West of Hays, population drops dramatically, even in areas along I-70, and only two towns containing populations of more than 4,000, Colby and Goodland, which are located 35 miles apart along I-70.
Southwest Kansas.
Dodge City, famously known for the cattle drive days of the late 19th century, was built along the old Santa Fe Trail route. The city of Liberal is located along the southern Santa Fe Trail route. The first wind farm in the state was built east of the Montezuma. Garden City has the Lee Richardson Zoo.
Economy.
The Bureau of Economic Analysis estimates that the total GDP in 2008 was $122.7 billion, making it the United States' 32nd highest state by GDP. Per capita personal income in 2008 was $35,013. As of January 2010, the state's unemployment rate is 6.4%. The agricultural outputs of the state are cattle, sheep, wheat, sorghum, soybeans, cotton, hogs, corn, and salt. Eastern Kansas is part of the Grain Belt, an area of major grain production in the central United States. The industrial outputs are transportation equipment, commercial and private aircraft, food processing, publishing, chemical products, machinery, apparel, petroleum and mining. Kansas ranks 8th in U.S. oil production. Production has experienced a steady, natural decline as it becomes increasingly difficult to extract oil over time. Since oil prices bottomed in 1999, oil production in Kansas has remained fairly constant, with an average monthly rate of about 2.8 million barrels, 450,000 m3, in 2004. The recent higher prices have made carbon dioxide sequestration and other oil recovery techniques more economical. Kansas ranks 8th in U.S. natural gas production. Production has steadily declined since the mid-1990s with the gradual depletion of the Hugoton natural gas field, the state's largest field which extends into Oklahoma and Texas. In 2004, slower declines in the Hugoton gas fields and increased cold methane production contributed to a smaller overall decline. Average monthly production was over 32 billion cubic feet, 0.9 kilometers 3. The Kansas economy is also heavily influenced by the aerospace industry. Several large aircraft corporations have manufacturing facilities in Wichita and Kansas City, including Spirit Aerosystems, Boeing, Cessna, Learjet, and Hawker Beechcraft, formerly Raytheon. Major company headquarters in Kansas include the Sprint Corporation, with world headquarters in Overland Park, EMBARQ, with national headquarters in Overland Park, YRC Worldwide, Overland Park, Garmin, Alav, Payless Shoes, national headquarters and major distribution facilities in Topeka, and Koch Industries, with national headquarters in Wichita.
Taxes.
Kansas has 3 income brackets for income tax calculation, ranging from 3.5% to 6.45%. The state sales tax in Kansas is 6.15%. Various cities and counties in Kansas have an additional local sales tax. Except during the 2001 recession, March-November 2001, when monthly sales tax collections were flat, collections have trended higher as the economy has grown and 2 rate increases have been enacted. Total sales tax collections for 2003 amounted to $1.63 billion, compared to $805.3 million in 1990. Revenue shortfalls resulting from lower than expected tax collections and slower growth in personal income following a 1998 permanent tax reduction has contributed to the substantial growth in the state's debt level as bonded debt increased from $1.16 billion in 1998 to $3.83 billion in 2006. Some increase in debt was expected as the state continues with its 10-year comprehensive transportation program enacted in 1999. As of June 2004, Moody's Investors Service ranked the state 14th for net tax-supported debt per capita. As a percentage of personal income, it was at 3.8%, above the median value of 2.5% for all rated states and having risen from a value of less than 1% in 1992. The state has a statutory requirement to maintain cash reserves of at least 7.5% of expenses at the end of each fiscal year. However, lawmakers can vote to override the rule, and did so during the most recent budget agreement.
Transportation.
Kansas is served by 2 interstate highways with 1 beltway, 2 spur routes, and 3 bypasses, with over a total of 874 miles, 1,407 kilometers, in all. The first section of interstate in the nation was opened on I-70 just west of Topeka on November 14, 1956. I-70 is a major east-west route connecting to St. Louis and Kansas City, Missouri, in the east and Denver, Colorado, in the west. Cities along this route, from east to west, include Kansas City, Bonner Springs, Lawrence, Topeka, Junction City, Salina, Hayes, and Colby. I-35 is a major north-south route connecting to Des Moines, Iowa, in the north and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in the south. Cities along this route, from north to south, include Kansas City, and suburbs, Ottawa, Emporia, El Dorado, and Wichita. Spur route service connections between the two major routes. I-135, a north-south route, connects I-70 at Salina to I-35 at Wichita. I-335, a northeast-southwest route, connects I-70 at Topeka to I-35 at Emporia. I-335 and portions of I-35 and I-70 make up the Kansas Turnpike. Bypasses include I-470 around Topeka, I-235 around Wichita, and I-670 in downtown Kansas City, Kansas. I-435 is a beltway around the Kansas City metropolitan area while I-635 bypasses through Kansas City, Kansas. U.S. Route 69 runs north and south, from Minnesota to Texas. The highway passes through the eastern section of Kansas, from the Kansas City area, through Leesburg, Fort Scott, Frontenac, Pittsburgh, and Baxter Springs before entering Oklahoma. Kansas also has the third-largest state highway system in the country after Texas and California. This is because of the high number of counties and county seats, 105, and the intertwining of them all. In January 2004, the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, announced the new Kansas 511 Traveler Information Service. By dialing 511, callers will get access to information about road conditions, construction, closures, detours and weather conditions for the state highway system. Weather and road condition information is updated every 15 minutes. The state's only major commercial, Class C, airport is Wichita Mid-Continent Airport, located along US 54 on the western edge of the city. Manhattan Regional Airport in Manhattan offers daily flights to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport and Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, making it the second-largest commercial airport in the state. Most air travelers in northeastern Kansas fly out of Kansas City International Airport, located in Platte County, Missouri. In the southeastern part of the state, people often use Tulsa International Airport in Tulsa, Oklahoma or Joplin Regional Airport in Joplin, Missouri. For those in the far western part of the state, Denver International Airport is a popular option. Connecting flights are also available from smaller Kansas airports in Dodge City, Garden City, Great Bend, Hayes, Hutchinson, Salina or Topeka.
Interstate freeways.
I-35, I-70, I-135, I-235, I-335, I-435, I-470, I-635, I-670.
U.S. routes through Kansas.
US 81 Business N, Lindsborg, KS Business Loop, and US 81 Business S, McPherson, KS Business Loop.
Law and government. State and local politics.
Executive branch. The executive branch consists of 6 elected officers. The governor and lieutenant governor are elected on the same slate. The attorney general, secretary of state, state treasurer, and state insurance commissioner are elected separately. The 6 top executive offices of Kansas are all Republican. Governor Sam Brownback and Lieutenant Governor Jeff Kalia were elected in 2010 on the same ticket to a maximum of 2 consecutive 4-year terms. Also elected in 2010 were the Attorney General Derek Schmidt of Independence, the Secretary of State Chris Kubach, of Kansas City, the State Treasurer Ron Estes, of Wichita, and the Insurance Commissioner Sandy Praeger, of Topeka. Legislative branch. The bicameral Kansas legislature consists of the Kansas House of Representatives, with 125 members serving 2-year terms, and the Kansas Senate, with 40 members serving 4-year terms. Currently, 32 of the 40 senators are Republican and 92 of the 125 representatives are Republican. Judicial branch. The judicial branch of the state government is headed by the Kansas Supreme Court. The court has 7 judges. A vacancy is filled by the governor picking one of 3 nominees selected by a 9-member judicial selection board. The board consists of 5 Kansas lawyers elected by other Kansas lawyers and 4 members selected by the governor.
Political culture.
Kansas has a reputation as a progressive state with many firsts and legislative initiatives. It was the first state to institute a system of workers' compensation, 1910, and to regulate the securities industry, 1911. Kansas also permitted women's suffrage in 1912, almost a decade before the federal constitution was amended to require it. Suffrage in all states would not be guaranteed until ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1920. The council-manager government model was adopted by many larger Kansas cities in the years following World War I, while many American cities were being run by political machines or organized crime, notably the Pendergast machine in neighboring Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas was also at the center of Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, a 1954 Supreme Court decision that banned racially segregated schools throughout the U.S. Kansas was one of the few states in which Franklin D. Roosevelt had limited political support, winning Kansas only twice in his 4 campaigns, although he won the state over Kansas Governor Alfred M. Landon during the landslide of 1936. The state backed Republicans Wendell Willkie and Thomas E. Dewey in 1940 and 1944, respectively. Kansas also supported Dewey in 1948 despite the presence of incumbent President Harry S. Truman, who hailed from Independence, Missouri, approximately 15 miles east of the Kansas-Missouri state line. Since FDR carried Kansas in 1932 and 1936, only one Democrat has won Kansas electoral votes, Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. Over the past 4 decades, Kansas has remained more socially conservative than many parts of the nation. The 1990s brought new restrictions on abortion, the defeat of prominent Democrats, including Dan Glickman, and the Kansas State Board of Education's 1999 decision to eliminate evolution from the state teaching standards, a decision that was later reversed. In 2005, voters accepted a constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage. The next year, the state passed a law setting a minimum age for marriage at 15 years. In 2008, Governor Sebelius vetoed permits for the construction of new coal-fired energy plants in Kansas, saying, "We know that greenhouse gases contribute to climate change." As an agricultural state, Kansas is particularly vulnerable. Therefore, reducing pollutants benefits our state not only in the short term, but also for generations of Kansans to come. However, shortly after Mark Parkinson became governor in 2009 upon Sebelius's resignation to become Secretary of U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Parkinson announced a compromise plan to allow construction of a coal-fired plant. In 2010, Sam Brownback was elected governor with 63% of the state vote. He was sworn in as governor in 2011, Kansas' first Republican governor in 8 years. Brownback had established himself as a very conservative member of the U.S. Senate in years prior, but since becoming governor has made several controversial decisions. In May 2011, much to the opposition of art leaders and enthusiasts in the state, Brownback eliminated the Kansas Arts Commission, making Kansas the first state without an arts agency. In July 2011, Brownback announced plans to close the Lawrence branch of the Kansas Department of Social and Rehabilitation Services as a cost-saving measure. Hundreds rallied against the decision. Lawrence City Commission later voted to provide the funding needed to keep the branch open.
Federal politics.
The state's current delegation to the Congress of the United States includes Republican Senators Pat Roberts of Dodge City and Jerry Moran of Manhattan, and Republican Representatives Tim Huelskamp of Fowler, District 1, Lynn Jenkins of Topeka, District 2, Kevin Yoder of Overland Park, District 3, and Mike Pompeo of Wichita, District 4. Historically, Kansas has been strongly Republican, dating from the antebellum age when the Republican Party was created out of the movement opposing the extension of slavery into Kansas Territory. Kansas has not elected a Democrat to the U.S. Senate since the 1932 election, when Franklin D. Roosevelt won his first term as president in the wake of the Great Depression. This is the longest Senate losing streak for either party in a single state. Senator Sam Brownback was a candidate for the Republican Party nomination for president in 2008. Brownback was not a candidate for re-election to a third full term in 2010, but he was elected governor in that year's general election. Moran defeated Tiat for the Republican nomination for Brownback's seat in the August 2010 primary, then won a landslide general election victory over Democrat Lisa Johnston. The only non-Republican presidential candidates Kansas has given its electoral vote to are populist James Weaver and Democrats Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt, twice, and Lyndon Johnson. In 2004, George W. Bush won the state's 6 electoral votes by an overwhelming margin of 25 percentage points with 62% of the vote. The only 2 counties to support Democrat John Kerry in that election were Yandot, which contains Kansas City, and Douglas, home to the University of Kansas, located in Lawrence. The 2008 election brought similar results as John McCain won the state with 57% of the votes. Douglas, Yandot, and Crawford County were the only counties in support of President Barack Obama. Kansas was boyhood home to Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was also the adult home of 2 losing Republican candidates, Governor Alf Landon in 1936 and Senator Bob Dole in 1996.
State law.
The legal drinking age in Kansas is 21. In lieu of the state retail sales tax, a 10% liquor drink tax is collected for liquor consumed on the licensed premises and an 8% liquor enforcement tax is collected on retail purchases. Although the sale of cereal malt beverage, also known as 3.2 beer, was legalized in 1937, the first post-prohibition legalization of alcoholic liquor did not occur until the state's constitution was amended in 1948. The following year the legislature enacted the Liquor Control Act, which created a system of regulating, licensing, and taxing, and the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control, ABC, was created to enforce the act. The power to regulate cereal malt beverage remains with the cities and counties. Liquor by the drink did not become legal until passage of an amendment to the state's constitution in 1986 and additional legislation the following year. As of November 2006, Kansas still has 29 dry counties and only 17 counties have passed liquor by the drink with no food sales requirement. Today there are more than 2,600 liquor and 4,000 cereal malt beverage licensees in the state.
Education.
Education in Kansas is governed at the primary and secondary school level by the Kansas State Board of Education. The state's public colleges and universities are supervised by the Kansas Board of Regents. Twice since 1999 the Board of Education has approved changes in the state science curriculum standards that encouraged the teaching of intelligent design. Both times, the standards were reversed after changes in the composition of the board in the next election.
Culture. Music.
The rock band Kansas was formed in the state capital of Topeka, the hometown of several of the band's members. Singers from Kansas include Leavenworth native Melissa Etheridge, Sharon native Martina McBride, Chanute native Jennifer Knapp, whose first album was titled Kansas, Kansas City native Janelle Monáe, and liberal native Gerard Neiman.
Literature.
The state's most famous appearance in literature was as the home of Dorothy Gale, the main character in the novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1900. Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie, published in 1935, is another well-known tale about Kansas. Kansas was also the setting of the 1965 bestseller In Cold Blood, described by its author Truman Capote as a non-fiction novel. Mixing fact and fiction, the book chronicles the events and aftermath of the 1959 murder of a wealthy farmer and his family who lived in the small West Kansas town of Holcomb in Finney County. The winner of the 2011 Newbery Medal for Excellence in Children's Literature, Moon Over Manifest, tells the story of a young and adventurous girl named Abilene who was sent to the fictional town of Manifest, Kansas, by her father in the summer of 1936. It was written by Kansas and Claire Vanderpool. Lawrence, Kansas, is the setting for a number of science fiction writer James Gunn's novels.
Film.
As was the case with the novel, the main character in the 1939 fantasy film The Wizard of Oz was a teenage girl who lived in Kansas with her aunt and uncle. The line, "We're not in Kansas anymore," is now used even in the United Kingdom to describe finding oneself in a totally new situation. The 1967 feature film In Cold Blood, like the book on which it was based, was set in various locations across Kansas. Many of the scenes in the film were filmed at the exact locations where the events profiled in the book took place. A 1996 made-for-television miniseries was also based on the book. A feature film named Kansas starred Andrew McCarthy as a traveler who met up with a dangerous wanted drifter played by Matt Dillon. The 2005 film Capote, for which Philip Seymour Hoffman was awarded the Academy Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of the title character, profiled the author as he traveled across Kansas while writing In Cold Blood, although most of the film itself was shot in the Canadian province of Manitoba. The setting of The Day After, a 1983 made-for-television movie about a fictional nuclear attack, was the city of Lawrence. Clark Kent's hometown of Smallville, Kansas was in the beginning of Superman. The 2013 film Man of Steel is set primarily in Kansas, as Superman is from Smallville, Kansas, a fictitious town. The 2012 film Looper is set in Kansas. The 1973 film Paper Moon, in which Tatum O'Neal won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, the youngest to win an Academy Award, was based in and filmed in Kansas. The film was shot in the small towns of Hays, Kansas; McCracken, Kansas; Wilson, Kansas; and St. Joseph, Missouri. Various shooting locations include the Midland Hotel at Wilson, Kansas; the railway depot at Gorham, Kansas; storefronts and buildings on Main Street in White Cloud, Kansas; Hays, Kansas; sites on both sides of the Missouri River; Willow Bridge; and St. Joseph, Missouri. Scenes of the 1996 film Mars Attacks took place in the fictional town of Perkinsville. Scenes taking place in Kansas were filmed in Burns, Lawrence, and Wichita. The 2007 film The Lookout is set mostly in Kansas, although filmed in Canada. Specifically 2 locations: Kansas City and the fictional town of Noel, Kansas.
Television.
The protagonist brothers of the 2005 TV show Supernatural hail from Lawrence, with the city referenced numerous times on the show. 2006 TV series Jericho was based in the fictitious town of Jericho, Kansas, surviving post-nuclear America. Early seasons of Smallville, about Superman as a teenager, were based in a fictional town in Kansas. Gunsmoke, a radio series western ran from 1952 to 1961, took place in Dodge City, Kansas. Gunsmoke, television series, starring James Arness as Matt Dillon. The longest-running primetime show of the 20th century ran from September 10, 1955 to March 31, 1975, a total of 635 episodes.
Sports. Professional.
Sporting Kansas City, who have played their home games at Village West in Kansas City, Kansas, since 2008. are the first top-tier professional sports league and first Major League Soccer team to be located within Kansas. In 2011 the team moved to their new home in Livestrong Sporting Park, a new $165 million soccer-specific stadium. Historically, many Kansans have supported the Major League sports teams of Kansas City, Missouri, including the Kansas City Royals, MLB, the Kansas City Chiefs, NFL, and the Kansas City Brigade, AFL, in part because the home stadiums for these teams are just miles from the Kansas border. The Chiefs and the Royals play at the Truman Sports Complex, located about 10 miles, 16 kilometers, from the Kansas-Missouri state line. The Kansas City Brigade play in the newly opened Sprint Center, which is even closer to the state line. From 1973 to 1997 the flagship radio station for the Royals was WIBW in Topeka. Some Kansans, mostly from the westernmost parts of the state, support the professional sports teams of Denver, particularly the Denver Broncos of the NFL. Two major auto racing facilities are located in Kansas. The Kansas Speedway located in Kansas City hosts races of the NASCAR, IRL, and ARCA circuits. Also, the National Hot Rod Association, NHRA, holds drag racing events at Heartland Park Topeka. The Sports Car Club of America has its national headquarters in Topeka.
History.
The history of professional sports in Kansas probably dates from the establishment of the minor league baseball Topeka Capitals and Leavenworth Soldiers in 1886 in the Western League. The African-American Bud Fowler played on the Topeka team that season, 1 year before the color line descended in professional baseball. In 1887, the Western League was dominated by a reorganized Topeka team called the Golden Giants, a high-priced collection of major leaguer players, including Bug Holliday, Jim Conway, Dan Stearns, Perry Worden and Jimmy McCullough, which won the league by 151-2 games. On April 10, 1887, the Golden Giants also won an exhibition game from the defending World Series champions, the St. Louis Browns, the present-day Cardinals, by a score of 12-9. However, Topeka was unable to support the team, and it disbanded after 1 year. The first night game in the history of professional baseball was played in Independence on April 28, 1930 when the Muskogee, Oklahoma, Indians beat the Independence Producers 13-3 in a minor league game sanctioned by the Western League of the Western Baseball Association with 1,500 fans attending the game. The permanent lighting system was first used for an exhibition game on April 17, 1930 between the Independence Producers and House of David semi-professional baseball team of Benton Harbor, Michigan, with the Independence team winning with a score of 9-1 before a crowd of 1,700 spectators.
College.
The governing body for intercollegiate sports in the United States, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, was headquartered in Johnson County, Kansas, from 1973 until moving to Indianapolis in 1999.
NCAA Division I schools.
While there are no franchises of the four major professional sports within the state, many Kansans are fans of the state's major college sports teams, especially the Jayhawks of the University of Kansas, commonly referred to as KU, and the Wildcats of Kansas State University, known as KSU, or K-State. Wichita State University, which also fields teams, called the Shockers, in Division I of the NCAA, is best known for its baseball program, winning the College World Series in 1989. Both KU and K-State have tradition-rich programs in men's basketball. The Jayhawks are a perennial national power, ranking second in all-time victories among NCAA programs, behind Kentucky. The Jayhawks have won 5 national titles, including NCAA tournament championships in 1952, 1988, and 2008. They also were retroactively awarded national championships by the Helms Foundation for 1922 and 1923. K-State also had a long stretch of success on the hardwood, lasting from the 1940s to the 1980s, making 4 Final Fours during that stretch. In 1988, KU and K-State met in the Elite Eight, KU taking the game 71-58. After a 12-year absence, the Wildcats returned to the NCAA tournament in 2008 and made it into the Elite Eight in 2010. KU is 5th all-time with 14 Final Four appearances, while K-State's 4 appearances are tied for 17th. Wichita State made its second appearance in the Final Four in 2013, its first coming in 1965. However, success on the gridiron has been less frequent for both KSU and KU. When the two teams met in 1987, KU's record was 1-7 and K-State's was 0-8. Fittingly, the Governor's Cup that year, dubbed the Toilet Bowl by the media, ended in a 17-17 tie when the Jayhawks blocked a last-second K-State field goal attempt. However, there have been recent breakthroughs for both schools. KU won the Orange Bowl for the first time in 3 tries in 2008, capping a 12-1 season, the best in school history. And when Bill Snyder arrived to coach at KSU in 1989, he turned the Wildcats from one of the worst college football programs in the nation into a national force for most of the 1990s and early 2000s. The team won the Fiesta Bowl in 1997, achieved an undefeated, 11-0, regular season in number 1 ranking in 1998, and took the Big 12 Conference Championship in 2003. After 3 seasons in which K-State football languished, Snyder came out of retirement in 2009 and guided them to the top of the college football ranks again, finishing second in the Big 12 in 2011 and earning a berth in the Cotton Bowl, and winning the Big 12 again in 2012.
NCAA Division II schools.
Notable success has also been achieved by the state's smaller schools in football. Pittsburgh State University, a NCAA Division II participant, has claimed 4 national titles in football, 2 in the NAIA and most recently the 2011 NCAA Division II national title. Pittsburgh State became the winningest NCAA Division II football program in 1995. PSU passed Hillsdale College at the top of the all-time victories list in the 1995 season on its march to the national runner-up finish. The Gorillas, in 96 seasons of intercollegiate competition, have accumulated 579 victories, posting a 579-301-48 overall mark. Washburn University, in Topeka, won the NAIA Men's Basketball Championship in 1987. The Fort Hays State University men won the 1996 NCAA Division II title with a 34-0 record, and the Washburn women won the 2005 NCAA Division II crown. St. Benedict's College, now Benedictine College, in Atchison, won the 1954-1967 men's NAIA basketball championships. The Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference has its roots as one of the oldest college sport conferences in existence and participates in the NAIA, and all 10 member schools are in the state of Kansas. Other smaller school conferences that have some members in Kansas are the Heartland Conference, the Midlands Collegiate Athletic Conference, the Midwest Christian College Conference, and the Heart of America Athletic Conference. Many junior colleges also have active athletic programs.
High school.
The Kansas State High School Activities Association, KSHSAA, is the organization which oversees interscholastic competition in the state of Kansas at the high school level. It oversees both athletic and non-athletic competition, and sponsors championships in several sports and activities.
Notable residents. Landmarks.